There's a moment we all encounter, the sting of being disrespected. It may come from a stranger, a coworker, or even someone you love. Sometimes it's loud and obvious. Other times it's quiet and cutting. And when it happens, your instinct might be to snap, to defend, to push back with equal force. But the Stoics saw things differently. They didn't see disrespect as something to fight. They saw it as something to transcend. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That single line captures the core of Stoicism, because the truth is, you can't control how others behave, but you can master how you respond. And in a world full of chaos, anger, and noise, that kind of control is rare and powerful. This series is about reclaiming that power. We're going to explore 10 Stoic principles that will help you handle disrespect, not with rage, not with weakness, but with wisdom. These are not theories, they're tools, practical ways to stay grounded when others try to pull you off balance. So let's begin, right where every battle starts, in the mind. Part 1. Keep your calm. When someone disrespects you, your first impulse is almost always emotional. You feel heat in your chest, tightness in your jaw, the urge to respond, to clap back, to say something that will shut them down. But the Stoics knew, reacting in anger doesn't make you strong, it makes you predictable. And predictable people are easy to control. Keeping your calm isn't weakness, it's command. It's the quiet power of someone who refuses to hand over their peace just because someone else is losing theirs. It's saying, "I see what you're doing, and I choose not to join you in the mud." That decision is a form of strength most people never reach. Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. That means they didn't do it alone. You participated, you allowed it. But if you can pause, if you can breathe, if you can hold back even for a moment, you interrupt the pattern. You remind yourself that your identity is not up for negotiation every time someone else behaves poorly. So instead of matching their disrespect, let your calm be the contrast. Speak slowly, or don't speak at all. Let silence do the talking. Let your eyes stay steady, let your face stay neutral. Because the more calm you carry, the less power their words will have. And in time, people will learn something important about you, that you are not easily moved, not because you're numb, but because you are centered. In a loud world full of overreaction, your calm will become your signature. And that signature, it's unforgettable. Part 2. Reflect on yourself. When someone disrespects you, it's easy to focus entirely on them, what they said, how they acted, how wrong they were. And maybe they were rude, unfair, out of line. But the Stoics teach us that the external world is never the first battlefield. The real one is within. And before you respond outwardly, you must look inward. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That's not just about behavior, it's about awareness. You don't rise above disrespect by reacting to it. You rise by understanding your part in how deeply it affected you. Why did their words get under your skin? Why did their tone shake you? What fear did it trigger? What insecurity did it expose? Self-reflection isn't self-blame, it's self-liberation. It's removing the hooks that let people control you in the first place. When you understand your triggers, they stop being triggers. When you examine your pain, it becomes fuel for clarity. And suddenly, what felt like a personal attack turns into a personal lesson. Not because they were right, but because you chose to grow from it anyway. This is the Stoic advantage. While others are obsessed with who's right or wrong, you're focused on who you're becoming. And that shift changes everything. It keeps your ego in check. It softens your defensiveness. It gives you room to respond not from pride, but from purpose. So, next time someone disrespects you, take a beat. Before you point the finger, turn the mirror. Ask yourself what this moment is revealing, not about them, but about you. And if you're brave enough to listen, you'll find something powerful, the parts of you still waiting to be strengthened. That's where the real work begins, and that's the kind of work no one can take away from you. Part 3. Learn to pause. In the heat of disrespect, time shrinks. Everything moves fast. Your breath, your heartbeat, your voice rising without your permission, and in that rush, the worst version of you wants to take over. That version doesn't think. It just reacts. But the Stoics teach a different habit, one that's subtle but life-changing. They teach you to pause. To pause is to take back control. It's to buy yourself a second of silence before you speak, a second of breath before you decide. That moment may seem small, but it's where your power lives. Because everything that happens after that pause is your choice. Seneca once wrote, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." That's the trap. We think we're defending ourselves, but really, we're giving the other person a front row seat to our own loss of control. And in doing so, we lose more than they ever took from us. But when you pause, something shifts. Your mind settles, your perspective widens. You remember that not every provocation deserves your energy. You remember that silence can be strength, that stillness can be strategy, that not reacting doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise enough to pick your battles. The pause doesn't erase the disrespect. It simply gives you the freedom to respond without becoming what offended you. And that's real power. It's the kind of presence that can walk through fire without setting everything else ablaze. So the next time you feel the surge rising, stop. Just for a moment. Take one breath. Count to 5. Feel your body. Let the noise pass through without catching it. Then decide, not from emotion, but from intention. Because in that pause, you're not just protecting your peace, you're training your character. And over time, that becomes your reputation. Calm, clear, controlled, a person who doesn't get pushed, only chooses when to move. Part 4. Have empathy. It may sound counterintuitive, even unfair, but one of the most stoic things you can do in the face of disrespect is to have empathy. Not to excuse the behavior, not to pretend it didn't sting, but to pause long enough to ask, what kind of pain must they be carrying to act that way? Because disrespect rarely comes from a grounded place. It's often rooted in fear, insecurity, envy, or past wounds left untreated. And when you look closer, you begin to see that the person hurting you is often hurting too. That doesn't make their actions okay, but it makes your reaction more powerful, because you're no longer being pulled into their chaos. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize?" That's not self-blame, that's self-awareness. It's the discipline to zoom out, to look past the insult and recognize the humanity behind it, even if it's flawed. Empathy doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you don't lose yourself in trying to walk over them. It means you can stand firm and still remain human. You can disagree without dehumanizing. You can respond without becoming a reflection of their worst self. And more importantly, empathy gives you clarity. It helps you stop taking everything personally. It reminds you that not everything thrown at you belongs to you. Some of it is just projection, pain looking for a place to land. And you can choose not to be the landing pad. When you respond with empathy, you step into rare air. You become someone others don't know how to shake, because they expected a fight, and instead you offered understanding. Not because they deserved it, but because you're no longer trapped in needing to match their energy. So don't lower yourself to their level. See them as they are, flawed, reactive, maybe even lost. But don't let them take you with them. Your grace doesn't make you weak. It makes you free. Part 5. Concentrate on virtue. In a world obsessed with image, with payback, with getting the last word, it's easy to forget that your real power lies in who you are, not what they did. When someone disrespects you, the most stoic response is not to mirror them, but to return to virtue. Virtue is your anchor, it's your North Star. It's the invisible line that keeps you from crossing into bitterness, pettiness, or revenge. And for the Stoics, it wasn't just a concept, it was everything. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter." Not whether they noticed, not whether they changed, not whether they ever apologized. Because when you concentrate on virtue, you take your power back. You stop asking, "How can I get even?" And you start asking, "How can I remain aligned with who I want to be?" And that question changes everything. You don't respond with sarcasm because you value clarity. You don't tear them down because you value dignity. You don't carry the insult because you value peace. Virtue isn't loud. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't chase applause. It simply holds. It holds when people mock you. It holds when they walk away. It holds when disrespect tries to pull you out of character, because character is exactly what virtue protects. And here's the truth: anyone can clap back. Anyone can fight fire with fire. But to stay rooted, to stay principled, to walk away without dragging your soul through the dirt, that takes a different kind of strength. That's not reaction, that's identity. So when disrespect comes, and it will, don't make them the focus. Make your virtue the focus. Ask yourself, what would integrity do right now? Then do that. Not for them, for you. For the version of you that doesn't rise and fall with every insult, but stays grounded in what's eternal. Because in the end, the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who know how to stay steady, even when the room shakes. Part 6. Embrace acceptance. There's a certain kind of pain that comes not just from what people do to us, but from our refusal to accept that they did it. We replay the moment. We ask, why did they say that? Or how could they treat me like this? And in doing so, we stay stuck, not in their behavior, but in our resistance to it. But Stoicism offers us a powerful shift. It tells us, don't resist reality. Accept it, not as approval, but as clarity. Because what you can't accept, you can't rise above. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have to assemble your life yourself, action by action, and be satisfied if each one achieves its goal as far as possible. That includes how you respond to being disrespected." Sometimes people will treat you unfairly. They'll ignore you, they'll speak with venom, they'll project their wounds onto you. That's life. It's messy, it's human, and it's not always within your control. But what is within your control is whether you keep circling it in your mind like it still owes you something. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means refusing to be drained by things you cannot change. It means saying, this happened, I didn't choose it, but I choose what I do now. And that one shift from victim to sovereign is where strength begins. The Stoics weren't passive. They were sharp, disciplined, and clear. But they didn't waste energy trying to rewrite the past. They didn't demand that the world be fair before they chose to be free. They accepted reality, not to be ruled by it, but to rise above it. So when someone disrespects you, ask yourself, am I reacting to them or resisting what already is? And if it's the latter, let go. Not because it's easy, but because your peace costs too much to bargain with illusions. You don't have to like it, you just have to stop fighting it. And when you do, something surprising happens. The pain loses its grip, the insult fades, and what's left is you, standing quietly with nothing left to prove. Only space to move forward. Part 7. Use humor. Sometimes the most unexpected response to disrespect is laughter. Not sarcasm, not bitterness, but true detachment. The kind that sees the situation clearly and chooses to smile anyway. Because when you can find humor in the moment, you've already won. You've shown that your peace isn't fragile, that your ego isn't so loud it has to defend itself at every blow. The Stoics were not emotionless. They were sharp observers of human nature. They saw that people act from ignorance, insecurity, and impulse. And sometimes the best way to handle ignorance is not to fight it, but to lightly acknowledge it, then move on untouched. Seneca once wrote, "A wise man laughs in the face of trouble, not because he mocks it, but because he understands it." That kind of laughter doesn't belittle, it liberates. It's not about making others feel small, it's about refusing to make their behavior big. Humor puts space between you and the insult. It keeps you light when they try to pull you down. It gives you perspective. Because sometimes the situation isn't personal, it's just ridiculous. And the moment you see it that way, you're no longer trapped inside it. Think of the strongest people you know, the ones who carry themselves with calm confidence. They don't erupt when challenged. They smile, not to dismiss, but to disarm. And that smile says more than any comeback ever could. You can try to shake me, but I'm still standing. So use humor as a shield, not a sword. Don't attack, don't mock. Just lighten the moment. Break the tension. Let your calm wit become the contrast to their chaos. Because when you can laugh instead of lash out, you prove that disrespect has no power here, not because you're ignoring it, but because you're already beyond it. Part 8. Set clear boundaries. Kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. That's something the Stoics understood long before it became common advice, because while they spoke of patience and calm, they never meant for you to be a doormat. Stoicism is not passive endurance, it's principled action. And sometimes, the most principled thing you can do is draw a line and hold it. When someone repeatedly disrespects you, it's not noble to remain endlessly tolerant. It's not virtuous to keep allowing harm under the disguise of inner peace. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." But that doesn't mean doing nothing. It means responding differently. Responding with integrity, not impulse. And one of the most powerful responses is to set a boundary. A boundary isn't aggression. It isn't revenge. It's a quiet declaration, "This is where I end and where you no longer get to reach." It says, "I choose to stay calm, but I also choose to stay away from what dishonors me." You don't need to yell to protect your energy. You don't need to explain yourself to someone who doesn't value the explanation. You just need to act and then follow through. Because when people know you will not fight, but you will walk away, everything changes. The dynamic shifts. They either adjust or they disappear. And either way, you win. Because your goal is not to change them. Your goal is to protect what you've built inside you, your peace, your self-respect, your standards. You can be kind, you can forgive, you can be composed and still say no more. Boundaries are not walls to keep the world out. They are gates to choose what enters. And if someone keeps crossing your lines, it's no longer a misunderstanding, it's a decision. And your decision must be to honor yourself first. So draw the line. Hold it. Speak gently if you must, but walk away firmly if they keep testing you. You don't need to prove your worth by staying. Sometimes, your worth is proven by the very fact that you left. Part 9. Choose forgiveness. Forgiveness sounds soft. It sounds like surrender, like letting someone off the hook. And when you've been disrespected, when your dignity has been bruised, it's natural to resist the idea of letting go. You want justice, you want closure, you want them to know what they did. But here's the truth the Stoics understood. Forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about freeing yourself. Holding on to resentment is like clutching fire. You think you're burning them, but you're the one getting scorched. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best way to avenge yourself is to not be like that." That doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean you pretend it didn't hurt. It means you choose not to carry it anymore. Because pain is heavy, and when you let it define you, you begin to shrink your life around it. You guard, you react, you walk with your fists clenched, expecting another blow. But when you forgive, not for them, but for your peace, you drop that weight. You stop defining yourself by the worst thing that happened. You become more than the wound. Forgiveness doesn't require a conversation. It doesn't require an apology. It's a decision you make internally, often in silence, a decision to say, I'm no longer holding space for this pain. I'm using that space to heal. And that choice, that's power. It takes strength to forgive. It takes maturity to say, I don't need revenge. I don't need to win. I just need to walk forward without dragging this behind me. Because the people who hurt you don't deserve a lifelong lease in your mind. They don't get to live in your thoughts while you try to build your future. So forgive, not because they were right, but because you refuse to let them keep you stuck. Forgive and let them stay behind, because you're going somewhere they can't follow. Forward. Part 10. Change your perspective. Sometimes what hurts you isn't what happened, it's how you saw it. The words, the tone, the moment of disrespect. They sting, not just because they were said, but because of the meaning you gave them. And that's where your freedom begins. Because the moment you learn to change your perspective, you stop being at the mercy of someone else's actions. The Stoics believed that perception is the gateway to all emotion. Epictetus wrote, it's not events that disturb us, but our judgment about them. You don't have to accept disrespect as truth. You don't have to wear someone else's opinion like it belongs to you. You get to choose what enters and what passes through. When someone disrespects you, ask yourself, is this about me or about them? Is this a reflection of my worth or their insecurity? Is this something I have to carry or something I can leave where it landed? Because most of the time, the offense says more about the offender than the one they targeted. And when you shift your lens, even slightly, you start to see things differently. You stop reacting and start understanding. You stop clinging and start releasing. You begin to realize that not everything needs a response. Some things just need a better vantage point. Perspective doesn't erase the pain, but it gives it context. It gives you options. It gives you space to decide, what does this say about me if I let it go? What does it say if I don't? And that power to interpret, that's where your strength lives. You can choose to see disrespect as a threat, or you can choose to see it as a test, a chance to prove to yourself that you've grown beyond the need to prove anything at all. So change the way you see it, and suddenly what once had the power to shake you simply passes by. You nod, you breathe, you walk on. And in doing so, you stop being the target. You become untouchable. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you, not just for listening, but for choosing to walk a different path, a quieter one, a stronger one. Because when the world tells you to fight noise with more noise, you chose stillness. When the world tells you to clap back, you chose calm. And when the world tells you to prove your worth, you remembered you already have it. Disrespect will come. It always does. From strangers, from friends, from people who should know better. But now you're equipped, not with weapons, but with wisdom. You know how to stay composed, how to pause, how to reflect instead of react. You know when to forgive, when to laugh, when to walk away. You know how to protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. These 10 lessons aren't just ideas, they're invitations to rise, to grow, to lead, to live with a kind of inner strength that no insult can reach. That's what it means to be stoic. Not cold, not distant, but deeply grounded, fully awake. Calm, not because life is easy, but because you are unshakable. So carry these lessons with you, return to them when the world pulls you off center. Let them remind you that you never need to fight to be seen, just stand. Let your silence speak, let your presence be your answer, and let your peace be the final word. Thank you for walking this path with me, and if you'd like more content like this, more Stoic insights, quiet strength, and tools for emotional clarity, make sure to subscribe to The Chill Stoic. We're building something rare here, and you belong in it. Until next time, walk slow, walk strong, and let nothing steal the stillness you've earned.